section, we're going to talk about Lightroom. And guys, I love Lightroom. It is, oh my gosh, it has changed my photography forever. It is so easy to use. It is so fun. And I'm just going to show you some really easy tips. It's only $10 a month from CreativeCommons.com. You'll actually get access to Lightroom and Photoshop for $10 a month. I think if you go out and buy I know Photoshop's around like $900 if you go buy the actual license to it. If you would just want to test it out, I know they've got a free 30-day trial. That's great too. So use that, and I'm sure you'll become addicted to it too. Okay, I want to just show you a few things. This is my cute grandpa. I went over to his house one day, and I was taking pictures inside. And inside you can get a lot of the orange fill, where I don't like as much orange fill. And so you can see the before and the after on this one. I was able to take out that orange fill to make it look like it was more like daylight versus inside yellow gross light. I'm not a big fan of yellow light. Here's another one with my little guy. So we were down in Cabo on this one, and it is a good picture. The before on the left is a good picture. But look at the one on the right. Look at the right versus the left, the water. The one on the left is darker. The one on the right is brighter. And even the inner tube, the orange on the left versus the orange on the right, it just pops. And then go down a little bit further, look at his face. His face on the left has a lot of shadows, and then the one on the right, there's no shadows. We just really were able to brighten that up using Lightshop. And it literally took me about 3 minutes to brighten that face up. Here's another one. This is my daughter walking Grandma into, we were going to a pizza pie cafe restaurant, something like that, and it was dark. And you get to a point at night where it's just going to be dark no matter what your settings are, or it's going to get really grainy. I didn't want the grain, so I decided to take it a little bit darker to keep it a little bit more crisp and then lighten it up in Lightroom. So the one on the left and then the one on the right, it literally looks like I just switched on the sun, switched on the light. And that's what you can do in Photoshop, is make a huge difference. And we're going to hop over, and I'm going to show you how I actually worked this picture. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to reset it. And you can see that I've narrowing in on their bum. I didn't mean to. Okay, there we go. And this picture, straight out of the camera, this is what it looks like. And I want to turn the light on, make it a little bit brighter, make it a little bit better. Let's say we're selling, I don't know, this outfit that my daughter's wearing. So first thing that I would do, it's a little bit crooked, so come over here, you're going to click on your crop and just bring it in a little bit and then straighten it up. I like the lines because then I can see where it'll be straighter. And then I can pull it in here if I want to. There's the 2/3 rule, so you just kind of crop it in like that. Okay, and then, so what I do is I'm going to come down here to highlights and shadows first. I'm going to bring over my highlights a little bit. You see how it's coming up a little bit, brightening up, and then shadows, and then my whites. Okay, so it's still a little too dark, so I'm going to jump up here to my exposure and just bump up my exposure a little bit. And that really turns on the lights right there. So exposure from super dark to super light. If you're not wanting quite as drastic, then you can play around with these right here. So up your highlights, the shadows, lots of shadows if you move to the left, less shadows if you move to the right. Whites, same thing, darker, all the way bright, which is blown out a little too much. And then your blacks, I like to leave black in there. If you don't, it just looks a little flat. And so I think bumping down the blacks a little bit just gives it a little bit more personality, or a little bit more depth into it. Clarity, bump it up a little bit. And I like to bump it up a little bit to define the lines, especially in Grandma and Grandpa's faces, because they have the wrinkles and they're beautiful wrinkles. And so I like to bump up the clarity to highlight that beauty that they have. Now, I think I would take down the clarity in mine because I'm not proud of my wrinkles. And so that clarity is going to help you define your lines a little bit more. So kind of you'll you'll know clarity here. It's softer, it's smoother, great for portraits. But up here, you're a little bit more harsh. And like I said, I like to bump it up. Grandma and Grandpa, and on products. Products a great one to bump up your clarity, just so it draws in those cleaner lines. If you want to pull up the vibrance, you can, or take it down. And then same with saturation. Pull it up if you want more color, pull it down if you want it black and white. Another thing is this little dropper right here is fabulous. So you can click on, I'll show you two ways. Click on the dropper, you can come over, and then it'll show you over here what the picture is going to look like when you're dropping. So that's too orange. You can play around with it. I actually just like to come over here and then drop it down. So this looks more like night, the fluorescent lighting orange. And then if you bring it down a little bit more, this looks more like dusk. I think it's got a little bit more of the blues versus the oranges and yellows that you find inside. A little bit more daylight feeling versus the fluorescent orangey look. If you go too much, kind of gross looking. So you kind of want to bump it up a little bit. I'll bump it to about right there. And then another thing is, let's say I want to take out the orange. So here's my right side. I've got the basic, the tone curve, HSL color, black and white. Just open up that little arrow right there, and you can play around with the orange. So it's not so orange, and the yellow, let's say you want to play around with it just a little bit more to help either pop that or to not pop it. Magenta, let's see if that takes. You can see my daughter's pants either lightening up, less magenta, or making them darker. So that's just a fun one to play with if you want to pop a color a little bit more than the others. Like if you've got a specific color on a product, don't overcorrect so that you're selling, I mean, your picture doesn't even look like your actual product. That's not what you're going for, but you're wanting to pop the colors and give that color a little bit of emotion. You can come down here and give it a little bit of a vignette. I know vignettes can look like a black hole like that, look, it's horrible. But if you just do a little bit, people's eyes go towards light. So just a little bit of vignette helps draw the customer's eyes to the center of the picture, and it makes it look really pretty. I'm going to show you a couple more before and afters. This one, let's see, Grandma and Grandpa were just walking down the hall, and it looks kind of, I'm going to show you the before and after. Oh, if you hit the letter Y, the letter Y will show you the before and the after, so that's a great little command. But look at the difference before. It's so orange. It's so, looks like it's on your phone. Just not a cute picture. And then that is a fun picture. That shows emotion. You've got a couple that's been married for 73 years, holding hands, walking down to their room. I love that picture. I think it's so fun. And here's another one of a Joe Totes bag that I was wearing. We do the before and the after. You can see it's dark. This is on a product. So the dark, it doesn't really pop. You can see my face just light up a little bit more. You always want to expose for the skin. So if you want to pull out the yellows, go for it, but just watch the skin so the yellow doesn't, or your skin doesn't turn yellow. You just want to make sure that you expose to the skin so the skin doesn't look weird if you're doing a picture of a person. Like this one is dark. We'd go over and do is just you hit the basic. You can bump up your exposure a hair just to turn the lights on a little bit, and then work with your highlight, work with your shadows, bring up the whites a little bit, blacks down, a hair. Clarity, I'm going to go maybe a little bit more this way, a little bit softer. Bring up saturation. Nope, I don't want to bring saturation up. I think the colors look fine. I'll crop it a little bit. Right there. Crop it if you want to, and then just add a little bit of the vignette. So anyways, there's your before and after. Goes pretty quick. It's great. There it is. And then you can export it to wherever you want to. So anyways, big fan of Lightroom. It changes, just, it's awesome. Like it pops colors. Like look at that one. It popped that color. This Joe Totes bag. Let's pull up this one. Whoa. Let's go back to this Joe Totes bag. We were doing a thing with Joe Totes. And I had my daughter take this picture. Those are my legs. And then I got into Lightroom. And you can see the left versus the right. The grass blades are greener. A little more sharper. Or a little more sharp. Sorry. It just brings in that personality and a little bit more oomph to the picture. A little bit more excitement to the picture. There's not too much the before versus the after. It's more the clarity. Let's see where I put the clarity at on this one. Bumped it clear up to 21 to give me more definition of the blades of grass. Just because it's not a person, we don't need to highlight their wrinkles. It's a product, blades of grass. We want to see the texture, and so that's when you bump up the clarity. And I think those are just about it. Oh, here's another one. Look, let me show you this one. I was doing a video for something that's coming up, and I just wanted to pop the color a little bit. So the left-hand side right here, it's just a little bit darker than I wanted. And so after Lightroom, after adjusting the shadows, the whites, the blacks, bumping up the clarity, a little bit of vibrance, I was able to get such a cleaner, more crisp picture. So that's why I'm a fan of Lightroom. Look at these things coming up. Oh my goodness, I love Lightroom. I got these fun homemade marshmallows. Took pictures of those yesterday. And the pictures are pretty good, so I didn't have to do too much to it. The lighting was perfect. And lighting is key. If you can get your lighting right, then you're not going to have to do too many edits. But if you're dark or inside, then you absolutely need Lightroom to help make your pictures pop. Anyways, I hope that helped, and that's it for photography. All right, we'll see you in the next lesson.